Well then, let's give the floor to Critias, and then to Hermocrates. Let's give him the same. Evidently, when his turn comes, he will request it. Begin your speech, my dear Critias.
I must obey you, Socrates, when you encourage me and invoke the gods, especially Mnemosyne, because almost all the essential elements of our discourse are within the domain of this goddess. Let us remember the total number of years has elapsed since the war is said to have broken out between those who lived beyond the Pillars of Heracles and all those who inhabited the interior regions is 9,000 years. Now we must recount it in detail. At that time, the gods divided the earth among themselves, when Poseidon was allotted the island of Atlantis, which we said was once larger than Libya and Asia, but which now, sunk by earthquakes, blocks the passage like an impassable swamp to those who sail from there to the ocean, so that they can no longer cross it. The god of the seas peopled it with his descendants, born of a mortal woman named Clytis, and, in order to properly defend the hill on which he lived, he completely isolated it by means of alternating rings of land and sea of greater and lesser dimensions, 2 of land and 3 of sea in all, dug out from the center of the island, all at the same distance on all sides, so that the hill was inaccessible to men. They had a son, Atlas, whose lineage became numerous and distinguished. The oldest king always handed on the monarchy to the eldest of his descendants, and they preserved it for many generations. They possessed a vast amount of wealth, such as no dynasty of kings had ever had before, nor is likely to achieve in the future, and they were provided with everything necessary for their provision in the city and in the rest of the country. Indeed, although they imported much from outside because of their empire, most of the things necessary for life were provided by the island. First, everything extracted by mining that was solid or fusible, and which we now call orichalcum, was extracted from the earth in many places on the island, and they covered its walls with iron as if it were paint. Wood was as abundant as the elephant breed. Since they received all these things from the earth, they built bridges in the rings of sea that surrounded the ancient metropolis to open a way to the outside and to the royal palace. They installed the royal palace directly from the beginning in the building of the god and his progenitors, and, as each one, receiving from the other, improved what was already good, surpassing the previous one as much as possible, until they made it astonishing in the grandeur and beauty of the works. Starting from the sea, they dug a canal 300 feet wide, 100 feet deep, and 50 stades long to the outer ring, and there they made the sea access to the canal like a harbor, opening an outlet so that the largest ships could enter. They also opened, following the direction of the bridges, the land circles that separated the sea circles, just enough for a trireme to cross, and covered the upper part so that the passage was underneath. For the edges of the land, rings, were high enough to rise above the sea. On the basis of such reasoning, and as long as the divine nature remained, all their blessings prospered. But when the divine blood in them was exhausted because it had often mixed with many mortals, and the human character predominated, they could no longer bear the circumstances surrounding them and became perverted. To those who could observe them, they seemed shameless, since they had destroyed the most beautiful of all things. And those who could not observe the true life of happiness then believed themselves to be the most perfect and happy, because they were filled with unjust pride and power. Zeus, the god of gods, who rules by law, since he can see such things, noticed that a good race was disposing itself unworthily, and he decided to punish them so that they would become more orderly and attain prudence. He gathered all the gods together in his most important mansion, which, installed at the center of the universe, overlooks all that participates in generation. And after gathering them together, he said,